All right, so Senator Tuberville finally allows some of these military promotions to go through, and the Senate confirmed several positions. I didn't read the whole story. I just read the headline and the first few lines. He let a bunch of them go through. So that's good news for the military. Things are starting to move forward with that. I don't know how many of you guys out there follow the Young Turks or watch any of their programming, some of their videos. Cenk Uygur, I reported not too long ago, was running for president. And the reason I reported on that, this dude's far left. He's like a major Bernie Sanders supporter, right? But the reason I was announcing it, reporting on it, is because he is a naturalized citizen. He's not a natural-born citizen, right? And, in the Constitution, the requirements for being president are, you have to be 35 years old and be a natural-born citizen. Well, he made a very, very good argument under the 14th Amendment that basically gave equal rights to all citizens. Using that amendment, I forget what article it is in the 14th Amendment, but basically using that amendment to argue that even naturalized citizens are still first-class citizens and have all the rights and protections of natural-born citizens. So he basically took that to mean that means he can run for president of the United States, which I read that article of the Constitution. I kind of looked it up a little bit, and I totally agree with Cenk Uygur on this one. Yeah, I agree with an extreme leftist. It makes total sense. Maybe not even for the same reasons that he does, but because of we treat all citizens as first-class citizens. We don't treat them any different. You can't treat somebody the same and then not allow them to have the top job in the United States. You might disagree with that. Not sure where you feel on that, where you fall. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I would think it would fall on a case-by-case basis. If you have somebody that was born in another country and moved here when they were really young and have been a citizen for, like 20 years or something like that, maybe make that provision in the Constitution. They have to have been a naturalized citizen and living in the United States for 25 or more years, something like that. But I would be totally fine with that. But like I said, let me know down in the comments what y'all think about this, because I'm really curious to get y'all's feedback and see what y'all think, because in my mind, that only makes sense to me. You add a provision in there to keep out people like somebody from the CCP from coming over here, becoming a citizen, living here for a few years, and then trying to become president. It would keep bad actors away, because you would have to live here and be a citizen for 25 years. And I'm not talking like an on and off. I'm talking living in the United States year-round for 25 years. Add that little provision in there. I think that's the right step. It's the next step in that process. And I think it's the right step. Like I said, let me know down in the comments what y'all think. But enough of my ranting and raving. What is up, everybody? How the hell y'all doing today? I hope y'all are having a pretty good day. Don't forget, smash that like button and hit subscribe if you're not subscribed. We cover political news around here at Legitical Response. I don't know if y'all like my big sign I got back there, but it was a Christmas gift. Thanks, Mom. Enough of all that BS. Let's get into it. All right, so here we go. We got a classic, something we've talked about before, kind of an update. So let's see what's going on in the House. Speaker Johnson, Ukraine funding depends on transformative change to border security. Yeah, so it appears that Johnson is sticking to his guns on this one, and he's not going to allow any Ukraine aid without some significant changes to the border, to border funding, to immigration policy, and all that. That's what it sounds like to me. House Republicans are digging in with their demands to link aid to Ukraine to permanent changes to U.S. border policy. Speaker Mike Johnson on Tuesday wrote an Office of Management and Budget Director, Shalanda Young, pushing back on the Biden administration's request to hurry Ukraine aid. Yeah, they're trying to rush this because the Defense Department is running out of the previous funding that was approved for Ukraine. They're about to run out of money, so Ukraine is about to be on its own, at least when it comes to the United States. Yeah, they're about to run out of funding. It's getting really, really close. But see, in my eyes, they're on the brink of defeat anyway. They're not moving anywhere, and they're quickly running out of people and bullets and ammunition, the ability to fight this off. The main thing being people. I totally understand that your country was invaded, but you can't expect other people to pick it up and do it for you. I'm sorry, the world just doesn't work that way. We can sanction the hell out of Russia all we want to, but if that's not going to stop him from doing what he's going to do, by God, you can't plunge the world into war over a border dispute. I'm sorry, that just doesn't sit well with me. But like I said, I like to hear the opinions from my listeners out there, so let me know in the comments what you think about this. In the letter, Johnson recalled an October meeting with administration officials, including Young and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, during which the speaker laid out preconditions for Republicans to support further aid to Ukraine. First, I explained that supplemental Ukraine funding is dependent upon the enactment of transformative change to our national border security laws, Johnson wrote. Border policy and Ukraine funding have become glued at the hip since Republicans supercharged border provisions in the administration's original supplemental request, which included Ukraine-Israel border security and aid to prop up security in the Indo-Pacific region. Yeah, which was a sack of shit, in my opinion. Republicans say taking action on the border is necessary to unlock funding for Ukraine. Now, I want to dig in on that point. I've made this point once before. Why? Why is, how did he put it? Taking action on the border necessary to unlock anything at all. Whether it's funding for Ukraine, funding for the Biden administration, funding for a bridge. Why? We already have all the funding and all the laws put in place to secure the border. There is a law that defines operational control. We've went over this before. It says we are supposed to have operational control over the border, which I've argued is impossible to do. But what you have to do is you have to make an attempt. You have to make it look like you're trying to secure the border instead of doing this. So we have all the laws on the books already. I don't know why they're playing politics with the border. Everything is already there. I'm sorry. To me, this just sounds like a dog whistle to get Republican voters to support this so Republicans can give Ukraine aid to Democrats so Democrats have their dog whistle for their Ukraine funding to make people think that the government is working for them. But I tell you this, folks, this is all a ruse. This is all a bunch of BS. We don't need Ukraine funding, for sure. That's definitely not a necessity. And we already have everything in place to fund and secure the border. So this is a total moot point, in my opinion. Let me know down in the comments if you disagree with that. Now, I know some of you are probably going to disagree with the Ukraine funding, but that's an arguable point. The southern border is not. While the administration's border requests were not well received by immigrant advocates, later demands by Senate Republicans participating in bipartisan talks crossed red lines by severely restricting asylum and immigration parole. Who cares? That stuff's already in place. It works. Keep it that way. Make some significant changes if you want, but what does that have to do with Ukraine? Nothing. Those talks threatened to split Democrats apart, with groups such as the Congressional Hispanic Caucus left out as their party contemplated severely curbing asylum. Yes, imagine that. Immigrants wanting to curb asylum. Yet, even the potential concessions that angered the CHC fell well short of Johnson's vision. Johnson's letter touted H.R. 2, a Republican border security bill passed by the House earlier this year, as a starting point to define the sort of border policy request the GOP want to see. Why? They've already passed H.R. 2. And like I said, all that stuff is already there. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I just had to throw that out there again. Democrats see many of the provisions in H.R. 2 as non-starters, and it was passed with no Democratic votes. No surprise there. Johnson's letter also reiterated Republican doubts about providing aid to Ukraine regardless of border policy. Yes, thank you, Johnson. Second, I explained that Congress and the American people must be provided with answers to our repeated questions concerning the administration's strategy to prevail in Ukraine. Clearly defined and obtainable objectives, transparency, and accountability for U.S. taxpayer dollars invested there, and what specific resources are required to achieve victory and a sustainable peace, Johnson wrote. And we haven't heard anything. They're not even trying to negotiate some kind of a ceasefire. They seem to could care less. I've been following this Ukraine thing since it started, like 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. Yeah, something like that. And there's been a couple of negotiative talks. But so far, nothing. The Speaker's letter underscores how far apart the sides are days after the Senate negotiations on the supplemental broke down. Republicans and Democrats view the current border security crisis through nearly incompatible lenses. Republicans say U.S. humanitarian laws are spurring mass migration in the Western Hemisphere, but many Democrats say migration is happening regardless and humanitarian protections are a necessary safety valve. Fundamentally, Republicans measure the problem by the number of migrants arriving at the border. Democrats measure it by the orderliness of the migration and entry into the United States. So therefore, it should be a crisis because of this, right? This is BS. Look, I know I've shown this video ad nauseum, but he is lifting the fence, letting people into the country illegally. Illegally. That means Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, is creating criminals. He is making criminals out of these migrants and also these CBP agents because they are aiding and abetting criminal acts. When you come into this country illegally, you all automatically become a criminal. That's just how it works. Sorry if I rail on that way too much. With regard to the U.S. border, the need to regain operational control has never been more urgent, and the American people deserve immediate action, Johnson wrote. The phrase operational control is defined in a 1996 law as the prevention of all unlawful entries into the United States, including entries by terrorists, other unlawful aliens, instruments of terrorism, narcotics, and other contraband, a bar that sets too high according to the border enforcement experts. No, yeah, it's a bar. It is called operational control. It is called controlling your border. Okay? We don't have to live up to that standard. It would be nice if we could. Hey, you know what? If we had a wall, it would make it a whole hell of a lot easier to do so. But it's a bar Republicans have used to slam the Biden administration and a fundamental part of efforts to impeach Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. For this, I'm sorry. I know I keep playing that video, but I'm going to go ahead and keep reading the story while that video is playing because, you know, why the hell not? By sticking to the House GOP's right flank on border demands, Johnson is sending a message to the Senate that a supplemental resembling the administration's first proposal is a dead in the water in the House. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer moved forward a bill to advance the supplemental package Monday, even as bipartisan talks on Ukraine and border security went cold over the weekend. The step I am taking tonight will ensure the process for the supplemental moves forward and that hopefully disagreements on immigration do not prevent us from doing what we must do to protect America's security, Schumer said. But Senate Republicans are also digging in, demanding tighter asylum laws and severe restrictions on immigration parole, a key component of the Biden administration's carrot and stick border strategy. What do you mean lifting the fence border strategy, right? They don't mean carrot and stick. It's called lifting the fence because they're lifting the fence. We made great progress, I think, on asylum, but the Democrat Party seems to be unwilling to address the key problem, parole. Senator Lindsey Graham said Tuesday at a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. Republicans see little reason to budge on concessions that some Democrats accepted as viable last week. Yeah, because, like I've said, everything is put in place for the border. So this is all just dog whistles and polishing a turd, essentially. Rather than engaging with congressional Republicans to discuss logical reforms, the Biden administration has ignored reality, choosing instead to engage in political posturing, Johnson wrote. We stand ready and willing to work with the administration on a robust border security package that protects the interests of the American people. It is well past time for the administration to meaningfully engage with us. Sorry for that last word. I couldn't quite get it out, but I am really sick and tired of all these politicians just trying to make it look like they're doing work for us when they're not doing a thing. This whole border security and Ukraine funding, like I've said before, to me is a moot point. You're not going to defeat Russia through Ukraine. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. We would have to actively go to war with Russia to defeat Russia. You know, probably low diff at that. It probably wouldn't be all that hard, you know, taking nukes out of the equation, of course. But, you know, there's always the nukes. So that means the United States military would have to get directly involved. I don't think anybody wants that. Whether you're, you know, anti-war or not, nobody wants a world war that destroys Western civilization and Russian civilization. I don't think anybody really wants that. So this whole Ukraine aid thing, to me, just seems like wasted bluster. If you want to go there, I'm sorry. They need to cut their losses and just deal with what they've lost and say screw it. You know, rebuild your forces and come back and take that land back at a later date. I could care less. If Ukraine built themselves up enough and they want to invade Russia, go right ahead. I could care less. I'm not going to help you out, but, you know, do your thing. You. Do your thing. And I've railed enough on the border, so I'm not even going to break down any of that bullshit, if you know. So, that's all I've got for this one, though. You guys, let me know what y'all think about all this. You know, what's your position on Ukraine? What do you think about the border? You think this is all a dog whistle, some BS? Or do you think this is serious shit? Which you already know my opinion, because I've just laid out my opinion for the past 20 minutes or so. But I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day and be positive. Peace.